Hello, good morning. I hope that you're all well and that you've had a good week. It's May the 1st today, and it was 19 years ago today that we bought our home here in Cornwall. Ray and we were talking this morning, and that time has gone in a flash, but it also feels as if we've lived here all our lives. We're so happy here. We're very blessed because our home is filled with love and laughter. There are tears occasionally, but predominantly it's a very, very happy home. Our two dogs, Hugo and Bertie, certainly make it a home. They fill it with a lot of muddy paw prints and doggy slobber, but we don't mind that. This week I got in some really long walks, and no matter where I walked, there was so much colour. The flowers, the wildflowers in Cornwall, they are blooming in profusion. When you're in the woods walking, it's full of bluebells and white bells and primroses and wild garlic. There's all these beautiful smells on the air. And then when you're on the coast path, you've got all the gorse, you know, that strong burst of yellow, and the smell of gorse to me always smells like a bit coconutty, and it always reminds me of suntan lotion and summer holidays on the beach. I don't know why, but that's what it always brings to my mind. Our May Queen, our Queen of the May for 2020, she is a profusion of colour and flowers. And when I look at this sampler, I can smell the flowers. I know that sounds stupid, but you know, it just clicks something in my mind. Isn't this the most gorgeous, gorgeous sampler? Really, really beautiful. Many of you would instantly have recognised this sampler as a Norfolk sampler, and Norfolks are one of my favourite genres of samplers, and so are Quakers, and there is a strong possibility that Sarah Reems was a Quaker. She was certainly a non-conformist, reading back through family history records, I am 99% certain that she was a Quaker. Now, Sarah, we know a lot about. We were very fortunate that on the back of the sampler, it was recorded that this was Mrs. Lungley's work. And we know that Sarah Reems was 11 years old when she finished her sampler. She was born on July the 17th, 1759 in Norwich. She was baptised in the old meeting house in Norwich, which is just off Colgate. She was the daughter of John Reems and Alice, whose maiden name was Collett. John's family can be traced back to the 1400s in Norfolk, and we know that John was an eminent merchant and manufacturer. When he died in 1794, it was reported in a local newspaper that the advanced age of 81 years, formerly an eminent manufacturer in the city, but had retired from business some years. When he was engaged in active life, he was justly respected for strict honour and possessed a social and benevolent mind, which uniformly influenced him to great acts of kindness and generosity. That really does sound like a Quaker, and the morals and ethics that a Quaker held very close to their heart. We know that Sarah married Samuel Lungley in the September of 1785, and Samuel was from Long Melford in Suffolk. Suffolk borders Norfolk. If you like English television programmes, do you remember Lovejoy? It was a drama, well, not a drama, it was a series about an antique dealer. Well, Lovejoy, it was based in Long Melford. We know that Sarah died at 33 years of age in the November of 1792, and we wonder if she died in childbirth. I think that is a strong possibility. We know that Samuel didn't remarry, and he passed away in 1816 of a fit whilst travelling. He probably had a stroke. His death was recorded in the nonconformist registers of the Melford Meeting House. And a newspaper mentioned the death of Mr. Samuel Lungley of Rodbridge, whose loss will be felt by the poor. And it also refers to him as respected. And it appears that Samuel was a very charitable man who assisted the needy of Long Melford. And again, you know, Quaker values. What was really, really interesting, that after Samuel's death, his house and land was sold, and it was a considerable property that he had. You know, I think the Reems family and the Lungley family, they were wealthy people. I write in the booklet a description of the property and what his estate entailed. There was a separate sale, a 3-day sale of his effects, which included 17 horses, mares and colts of superior size and symmetry, and it goes on about lots of other things. But what was really interesting, that there was a library of 500 books, and it also gave details of what some of those books were, and it lists the furniture in the house. We know that Sarah and Samuel slept on full-size goose feather beds. I love all that little bits of information. Now, we have Samuel's will, but the writing of the will is really hard to read. But it appears that Samuel and Sarah had no children, and the estate, which was substantial, was left to Samuel's siblings and nieces and nephews. We wonder where Sarah's sampler went to. It was obviously in that house when the effects were sold. But anyway, whoever inherited the sampler and whoever has been the custodian of it has cherished it. The original sampler is in excellent condition. Now, I haven't got the original sampler here. It's actually at Whitney Antiques being conserved. But what I do have is a photograph of Miss Jean Lee holding the sampler, and this was taken in the January of 2020 when I was at the Attic Needleworks. Isn't it beautiful? It really, really is. And that's just the colour on the front. When we expose the back colours, oh my gosh, you needed your sunglasses. It was just, oh, it was radiating colour. You know, I think that the silks that Sarah used, they were the finest silks. Like, you know, her parents were wealthy. They could afford good quality materials, and, you know, they were you know, superior, and that's why the dye has held so well. On the back of Sarah's sampler, when we looked at the over one verse, she never carried a thread between letters, let alone words. Each letter she worked, started and finished individually. You know, she showed great care. And all down the centre part of this sampler, all this body of the sampler, she stitched, it's practically reversible, but the borders, she wasn't as tidy stitching those borders. So she either got fed up and just hurried the borders, or maybe she started the border first and she wasn't so experienced a needleworker, and, you know, she gained skills as she worked a sampler. I don't know. You know, anything would be a guess, really. It is just such a beautiful sampler. Now, let's have a look at the stitches used in the sampler. It was stitched mainly with cross stitch over 2, but the verse is worked in cross stitch over 1, and the verse is beautiful. Oh, be thou blessed with all that heaven can send, long health, long life, long pleasure, and a friend. Not with those toys the female world admire, riches that vex and vanities that tire. Let joy or ease, let affluence or content, and the gay conscious of a life well spent. Calm every thought, inspire every grace, glow in thy heart and smile upon thy face. That is just such a beautiful, beautiful verse. Now, Sarah also used Algerian eyelets over 4 and 2 threads, and they are 8-legged Algerian eyelets, and she used Irish stitch. We have this beautiful band of Irish stitch, which you might know as flame stitch or bargello. This sampler could be stitched by a confident beginner right through to an advanced needleworker. The model was stitched by Lisa Brown, and Lisa poured her heart into every single stitch on this sampler, and Lisa's stitching is exquisite. Lisa is working at the highest of levels with her needle. So beautiful. It was stitched with Soie 103, and the linen that we used was legacy linen foxtail millet. Now, foxtail millet is 45 count, and with legacy linens, the colour name is specific to the count. The same colour in different counts would be Victoria sponge cake in 30 count, corn tassel in 37 count, and sycamore sea pod in 53, 63 counts. So, you know, it doesn't matter what size linen you like to work on. This colour is available from 30, 37, 45 and 53.63 for you to work Sarah on. If you stitched her on 28 count linen, it would be 16.64 by 22.64. If you stitched her on 36 count linen, she would be 12.94 by 17.61. And on 46 count linen, she would be 10.13 by 13.78. She is very, very beautiful. The format that we've produced her in is the A4 booklet format with the centre fold, and you have very clear stitch diagrams in the booklet to enable you to stitch the sampler. So you have your cross stitch over 2 and 1 threads, you have your Algerian eyelet and your Irish stitch, which is straight stitches worked in a series of zigzags. Very enjoyable stitch to work, and that one works up very, very quickly. It was lovely researching Sarah's family background. Quakers, Norfolk, all of those are things that interest me a great deal, and there was a lot to be found about her family, particularly in the newspaper records of that area. They were obviously people who were important in their society for them to feature so frequently in newspapers of that time. It's such a shame that Sarah had a short life and that she had no children. My heart really goes out to her not to have had children. That is so sad, and probably to have died in childbirth. We hope that you enjoy this sampler. It's such a special one. When I went to Whitney Antiques a few weeks ago, I went with some friends, and Becky Scott very kindly opened up the store just for us, and we spent 6 hours in Whitney. We couldn't believe it. It was such a fabulous time. We were very, very lucky that while we were there, a gentleman that works for Becky, framing her samplers and doing other work for her, delivered several boxes of samplers and other things, and we got to witness them being unpacked. We had the most fabulous day. It was like behind the scenes in the museum. We got to see so many special things. If you have the opportunity of going to Whitney Antiques, you need to ring, because they're not open every day, but it is so worth visiting. I came away mentally exhausted from everything I had seen, and it took me a good week or so just for my brain to process what I had seen. I was sort of like, it's almost like if I was overdosing on sugar. My brain was just whirling with everything that we had seen. We were so lucky. Okay, so going back to Sarah, she's available as a printed booklet from needlework stores around the world, or as a printed booklet on our Hands Across the Sea Samplers website, and as a PDF download. With the PDF download, you get a multi-page colour graph, a multi-page black and white graph, and a single page colour graph. I know that more and more of you are enjoying working from the single page digital graphs, using your phone or your iPad to stitch from it. They do work with Pattern Maker and other apps that are available, but to be honest with you, you don't actually need that. You can just download it onto your phone or your iPad and just work from that digital file. And what I love about it is that you can blow it up as big as you want, and you can just move around. There's no overlaps. Okay, so Sarah Reems, 1770, Oh, be thou blessed with all that heaven can lend. The 2022 Queen of the May. I hope you think she's worthy of being crowned Queen of the May. We do. Okay, so what else has happened this week? Well, I finished Fanny Bramley, and gosh, I did enjoy working this girl. These little butterflies are gorgeous. Now, Fanny was full of quirks, and really I should talk about this when we release the sampler, but I know that many of you are anxious to see the corners of the border on this sampler. Now, the border is really, really beautiful. Very therapeutic border to work and an easy one to count out. So we know that she started here because this is the perfect corner. She then went to this side, and at first glance this looks to be the same, but it is not the same as this one. She actually went down further, which affected the side. We believe that she then stitched this corner, and this corner is again very, very different. And when she got to this corner, look at that. What was she thinking? So that was her perfect border, and that was her messed up, really messed up 2 corners. I decided to stitch it as she did, even though it sort of irked me as I was doing it. And I know I'm going to look at this sample and think, as I walk past it in my home. But also, it will also make me think of Fanny and, you know, her little struggles with her maths while stitching her sampler. She also did a very quirky thing as well. On this, this butterfly tip, she put this little black tip on it, but she didn't do it on the other wing or these 2. Now, I have compromised with my with this, and I have actually put the 2 tips of the butterflies in. But again, in the booklet, it will be annotated so that you know if you want to stitch it totally authentically, you don't add the tip here, here and here. And I will also put in the booklet corrected corners for this sampler so that you can stitch her symmetrically, or if you prefer, you can stitch her exactly as Fanny stitched her. This is one of the things that makes schoolgirl samplers so endearing. Their little personalities and their struggles while stitching their samplers really show through. Such a pretty sampler. This is going to the framers on Tuesday. My framers don't open on a Monday. I've already picked the frame for her. So I'm hoping by next weekend she will have her photo session with our photographer. Talking of photos, I shared on Hat's social media some photos that Leona sent me, and Leona had finished Emma and Martin Noah Hubbard, a brother and sister Norfolk samplers, into a pocketbook. Now, Leona is a very gifted needleworker and finisher, and I think how she's finished these 2 samplers is amazing. It's so nice to get 2 samplers that are identical in size, and these were just, you know, perfect for finishing into a pocketbook. They really, really were. And these 2 little samplers, they use the same colours, and they will stitch up very, very quickly. They are just great fun, easy samplers, great travel project. You could make them up into 2 separate little cushions. You know, there is so much that you can do with them. But I hope that whatever you do with them, whether you frame them or you put them into smalls, that you will share those with me. I love seeing what people do with our designs, and never be afraid to change anything. We like to think of our hats samplers as examples. Needlework teachers, they had their piece of needlework which they used as an example to the children in their class, and the children went away and made the samplers their own. So whether you want to stitch the sampler exactly as charted or make it your own, never worry. I have so many emails, people ask me, would I be offended if they changed something? And no, I would not. These are your samplers when you stitch them. Because I'd finished Fanny, I went back to a dear friend. Now, I am not stitching a dear friend on this big set of bars, but I put the biggest bars that side bars that needle needs do, so that I could show you the whole sampler. So I'm back working on a dear friend. I had a break and stitched Fanny because I had Fanny charted and I hadn't finished charting a dear friend. And when I got home from the States, I was just mentally too tired to do any charting to stitch. So it was easier to stitch Fanny. But I've now charted a lot more of this sampler, so I have things I can stitch. Now, if you remember, this was another quirky little girl. She spelt friend without the I. This girl is keeping me on my toes as I'm charting her and stitching her, because there's lots of quirky things that she did. It's like this little base here. It's completely off centre. Why she didn't stitch that over, I just do not know. I'm getting very close to stitching the house and garden that features on this, which was one of the motifs that I really fell in love with. Anyway, I'll be carrying on working on this sampler now. There's a few people that have been emailing me saying they hoped that I hadn't given up on the sampler. No, I hadn't. It's just the way things worked out. This week, well, last night actually, I was so pleased to see that, or maybe I should say excited to see, that Hobby House Needleworks posted Monsieur Jean-Marie Roulet scissors on their website. They've got these beautiful French scissors in stock. Now, I've been collecting these scissors for a long time. They are beautiful scissors. They're not everyday scissors. I have a friend who uses these every day, but I don't use these every day. I use these for special occasions. If I go to a workshop, I will take a pair with me and use them. And I always start a project and end a project using a pair of these special scissors. It's just my little routine. They are absolutely exquisite. Each set of these scissors comes in a handmade box carved specifically for the pair of scissors, and some of the boxes, the scissors will only fit in one way. Now these fit in both ways, but some of them they just fit in one way because they're carved for the scissors. The boxes are made in all different types of woods, and sometimes I've actually bought a pair just for the beauty of the box. Anyway, I am very blessed that I have got a lot of these, and I had decided about two and a half years ago that I had reached my quota of these scissors, and I stopped collecting them. Well, that was until last night, and I saw this beautiful selection on the Hobby House Needleworks, and I must admit I did submit to temptation. It's so hard. When I was young, I would have preferred a pair of high-heeled shoes to anything, but as you're older, your values change in life, and one of the things that really excite me are beautiful scissors, and I don't have to use them to get enjoyment out of them. Just seeing them displayed gives me this lovely sense of, I don't know, I just love looking at them. And when I sit down in my sewing chair and I look on the side at my tools and I see this lovely group of scissors, it just gives me a lovely warm feeling inside. Weird, I know, but I'm sure there's many other people out there that have a scissor addiction. Anyway, the Monsieur Roulet scissors, they are expensive. They are maybe for very, very special occasions, whether it's Christmas, birthday, anniversaries. But if you are lucky enough to have a pair, you know what I mean about how they are so, so special. Anyway, I haven't told Ray yet that I succumbed to temptation, but I shall tell him there for my Christmas box at the end of the year. He knows how much I love them, so he doesn't really mind. It's a little game that we play. Right, is there anything else to talk about? I think that's probably it for this week. I know that many people have been very excited to see Sarah. We feel very, very privileged to have been able to reproduce this sampler. When I saw the sampler come up at auction, I just knew that this would be a beautiful sampler for a collection and a beautiful sampler to reproduce for the hats portfolio. Our portfolio is really growing. One of our needleworkers who collects our charts, she actually sat down and wrote out a list of published designs, and I think that we've hit around about the 140 now. It's just, I don't know where the time has gone, but we've had so much fun working with all these beautiful pieces of needlework. There we are. Anyway, enjoy Sarah, enjoy the week ahead. If God is kind, I'll be back next weekend. Stay safe, stay well. Bye-bye.